Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into the absolutely high-stakes world of mergers and acquisitions. We're talking about corporate marriages, hostile takeovers, and deals so massive they can literally reshape entire industries overnight.
Okay, to really get a sense of just how high the stakes are, let's start with a number, a really big number, $183 billion. So, what's that, you ask? Well, that was the price tag for just one single deal. Yep, that's what Vodafone paid to acquire Monisman way back in 2000. It was a deal so massive, it created one of the largest companies on the entire planet at the time.
So it begs the question, right? What exactly are these massive, multi-billion-dollar deals all about? And why in the world do they even happen? Come on, let's unpack the fundamentals of what everyone calls M&A, mergers and acquisitions.
All right, first things first. We've got to get our terms straight because, believe me, not all of these deals are created equal.
So at its very core, M&A is all about combining companies. But, and this is a big but, the way they combine is what really, really matters. Think of it like this. It's the huge difference between a true partnership and just a straight-up buyout.
A great way to think about a merger is like a marriage of equals. Two companies coming together after a lot of negotiation to form a brand new, larger company. An acquisition, though, that's way more straightforward. It's simply a purchase. One company, the acquirer, just goes out and buys the other company, the target.
And these acquisitions, well, they can be friendly, where everybody's on board and agrees to the deal. But sometimes, oh boy, they get hostile. In a hostile takeover, the acquirer basically goes over the heads of the target company's management directly to the shareholders, trying to buy the company right out from under them. It's pretty dramatic stuff.
Okay, so you're probably wondering, why do companies spend these insane amounts of money, we're talking billions, to merge or buy another company? Well, the motivations are pretty complex, but they generally fall into a few key buckets.
The reasoning can be all over the map. On one hand, it can be a super calculated, strategic move, like a grandmaster in chess capturing a key piece. But on the other hand, it can be driven by sheer desperation. A company is on the brink of collapse and has to merge with a stronger partner just to survive, just to stay in the game. And those big picture reasons? They're often fueled by some really specific drivers. For instance, a company might just feel the heat. All its competitors are merging, so they feel like they have to too. Or maybe they want a shortcut. So they'll just go out and buy a smaller, nimbler company to get their hands on some cool new tech or a whole new group of customers, like right now.
All right, so let's talk about the different flavors these deals come in. There are basically three main ways that companies can combine their operations.
First up, you've got horizontal integration. This is pretty simple. A company buys its direct competitor. Think of one car company buying another. Then there's vertical integration. This is where a company buys a supplier or a customer to get more control over its whole production line, like a supermarket buying the farm that grows its vegetables. And finally, you have the conglomerate merger. This is when a company buys something in a totally unrelated field, like a phone company buying a movie studio, usually to spread out their risk.
Okay, now here's where things get really interesting, because despite all this brilliant strategic planning and all those billions and billions of dollars changing hands, there's a pretty shocking twist in the M&A story.
That's right. The vast majority of them fail. Seriously, study after study, like this one from the Harvard Business Review, shows that most of these huge, super expensive deals just don't work out. They don't deliver on their promises, and a lot of the time, they actually end up destroying value instead of creating it.
So what gives? Why do so many of them fail? Well, a lot of the time it comes down to some very human reasons. You know that magic word, synergies? That idea that 1 + 1 will somehow equal 3? Yeah, that often turns out to be a total myth. Or you get two completely different company cultures that just clash, making it impossible for people to actually work together. And sometimes it's just plain simple. The buyer got caught up in the heat of the moment and paid way, way too much.
But this high-stakes game of corporate chess, it's not new at all. In fact, we've seen this play out in very distinct waves for over a century now. And each wave has been kicked off by some major shift in technology or the economy.
You can literally see it in history. The first big wave, that was all about the railroads, creating a national market. Then, boom, the automobile came along and connected all the local markets.
The 80s were famous for that frenzy of mega mergers, which happened mostly because of deregulation. And the wave we're still kind of in, it started in the mid-90s and has been totally driven by technology and globalization, with the internet pretty much erasing borders for business. So when you look at the big picture, M&A is this incredibly powerful, cyclical force of change. I mean, it's been responsible for creating household names we know and love from a century ago, and it's what's defining the tech giants of today. It really is like a constant reshuffling of the entire corporate deck.
And that brings us to one final big question. We've seen these massive waves driven by railroads, by cars, by the internet. So as brand new technologies like AI and green energy start to completely reshape every single industry out there, what do you think is going to trigger the next great merger wave?